Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about a development which may not appear to be as significant as some people might think, but I think it is going to have a long-term impact on the geopolitics of the Gulf, the geopolitics of the Middle East, and also on India's foreign policy. And the event that could have triggered all of this is this attack on an Indian cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, probably towards the end of the Strait of Hormuz, because all the entire crew was saved by the Omani Coast Guard. So it was closer to towards the end of the Strait of Hormuz. So the Ministry of External Affairs acknowledges the Indian Ministry of that an Indian flagged commercial vessel came under attack, and according to reports, it was actually sunk. So while official sources have not identified Iran as the source, it's a drone attack on the Indian ship, but everybody else who is talking, especially pro-Iranian voices, pro-IRGC voices, are taking credit for this attack. There are two other alternative theories that are floating around are most unlikely. One is that, Israel could have done this because it wants India to align more closely with UAE and Israel and align against Iran openly. That could be one trigger, and then there is also the theory going around that it was an accident by U.S., but I doubt that. In an exchange between U.S. and Iran 2 days ago, an Indian sailor died, so that is why the theory is floating around that is it possible that Iran and the U.S., because some people are finding it extremely difficult to believe that Iran would attack an Indian flagged ship, but it appears most likely that it was an Iranian attack on the Indian flagship. I want to share a bit of India's response with you. The Ministry of External Affairs has issued a statement, and surprisingly, the statement is quite bland, to say the least. The statement doesn't say much at all, and I'm quite surprised by it. And I think the reason why the message is so bland is because Abbas Araghchi is right now in New Delhi at this time, Iran's foreign minister. And so I think there must be a lot of whatever opposition and criticism that India may have, that might be done orally to his face itself. So anyway, this is the statement issued by the India's Ministry of External Affairs. It says the attack on Indian flagged ship off the coast of Oman yesterday is unacceptable. This is the strongest part of the entire statement, labeling it as unacceptable. And we deplore the fact that commercial shipping and civilian mariners continue to be targeted. All Indian crew on board are safe, and we thank the Omani authorities for rescuing them. And then they have nothing else to say, so they repeat the point that they made, number one. I mean, this seems to be in such a hurry that they did not even number the first one. If you notice, there is no number one, there's only number two and number three. And then they say India reiterates that targeting commercial shipping and endangering innocent civilian crew members or otherwise impeding freedom of navigation and commerce should be avoided. Well, it's the same thing as the previous number one statement. So this is really mild, does not mention Iran at all, does not indicate that. But from the point number three, where they are talking about impeding freedom of navigation, it does imply that they are hinting that it's Iran. But that is also further complicated because even the U.S. is blockading it. And if ships are coming from Iran, the U.S. is definitely making sure that, well, that's what the U.S. was claiming, that it would make it sure. Now, this attacks comes in, and there are several other things that are happening simultaneously, and that is very interesting. One thing that I want to share with you is that, of course, as you all know, Donald Trump is in Beijing and discussing things with Xi Jinping. The White House has just issued a statement that deals directly with Iran. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I just want to apprise you and share it with you as to what it is. So So this is the statement. Apparently, the two sides have agreed that the Strait of Hormuz should remain open. There should be no tolls, and Iran should not have nuclear weapons. But this point is interesting. Sorry, not this one. This one, that while they are discussing this, Chinese vessels from Iran have left the Strait of Hormuz without the U.S. blockading them. That is very interesting, that U.S. has allowed Chinese ship taking oil from Iran to China. I mean, that was the purpose of the blockade, isn't it? To squeeze the Iranian economy, to make sure that it is not unable to export oil, and because it's unable to export oil, it will come under pressure, because it's 10% of Iran's GDP is essentially exports of oil, and 90% of that goes to China. So if you can block Iran's exports to China, then Iran's economy is done, or at least will collapse by 10%. That would be huge. But apparently yesterday and today, Iranian tankers are leaving Iran and going to China. Not only that, two ships carrying Qatari LNG have left Qatar and gone to Pakistan. So it appears that ships leaving the Strait of Hormuz are being allowed, ships that are going to Pakistan, ships that are going to China. I think it is maybe that's why the ship Haji Ali, it's called, which Indian ship which tried to navigate the Strait of Hormuz. Perhaps it assumed that people were letting it go and went there. I find it can't be an accident. See, you're not just going to try to sneak through, unless you're trying to say that this ship was trying to sneak through an Iranian blockade and an American blockade. That sounds kind of ridiculous, especially at this time when the insurances have gone sky high. That would not be. So the assumption is that either the Iranian, whoever owns the ship, it's an Indian flag ship, but whoever made the decision, they probably have borrowed these stupid statements that are coming out from Washington, particularly that Iran has absolutely no capabilities. We have destroyed Iran's navy, blah, 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 blah. But then look at this. Today, Iran captured a ship off the UAE's coast, and they have taken it away to Iran, and then they attacked this particular ship and they sank it. And I'm sure they would have hailed it, they would have shouted at it and said, pay the toll, etc. So now all of this is happening while several things are happening, which are three important events that are happening. One is that Trump is meeting with Xi Jinping in Beijing. The BRICS Foreign Ministers Summit is happening in Delhi, and Syed Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, is in Delhi. In fact, today he would have met Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's going to have a bilateral with Dr. Jaishankar, India's foreign minister. And of course, you can see that his statement that he's issued for the BRICS Summit has already, the video of it is already floating around on X. And then the third and more important meeting that I think the signal is primarily to the possible meeting that is going to happen tomorrow, which is when Prime Minister Modi goes to UAE and meets with MBZ. So MBZ is the president of United Arab Emirates. There was an interesting article about it. That's what I primarily wish to talk about today. There was a very interesting analysis of that posted by the ORF Foundation, an Indian think tank, by Professor Harsh Pant, who is one of their more important people. India and the UAE, a new strategic compact. So India and United Arab Emirates decided to sign a strategic defense partnership, and especially after Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signed a mutual defense agreement. This is different, okay? The Pakistani and Saudi Arabia's mutual defense agreement says that if one country is attacked by somebody else, then they will come to each other's help. This is different. This is a cooperation without actually commitment to fighting. So that's why India is not involved in defending UAE the way Israel is. But nevertheless, there is cooperation in technology, in intelligence sharing, in counterterrorism, and beyond. So there is interoperability, and I think India has the ambitions to become a security guarantor of the Indo-Pacific, of the Indian Ocean primarily, but having an ambition and actually having the capacity to do it are two different things. So, for example, when the U.S. sank the Iranian ship Iris Dana, which came to India and was unarmed essentially, which was going back, and the U.S. sank it just a few miles of the Indian coast. India had nothing to say, no condemnation, nothing at all. So if you want to maintain the security of the Indian Ocean as primary provider of Indian security, that's how Mr. Pant describes India's ambitions, then at least have the moral courage to condemn such activities. But nevertheless, this is interesting that India has been trying to have its cake and eat it too. So India stands with Israel. Narendra Modi goes to Israel 3 days before the war and says that India stands with Israel with full conviction. And then India has now a strategic partnership with United Arab Emirates, but no such partnership with Iran. And then when Israel and the United States attack Iran in complete violation of the UN UN Charter, India has nothing to say. You saw strong condemnation coming from other BRIC countries, especially Russia and China. But India, the so-called RIC partner 1, 2, 3, is completely out of sync with RIC and completely out of sync with BRICS. Because previously when BRICS was being led by Brazil, the last year, there was a very strong condemnation from BRICS for attacking Israel. But now that India is president of BRICS, BRICS is unable to come up with any condemnation of either Israel or the US or any statement sympathetic to Iran because it's being attacked. On the contrary, India is trying to make sure that Iran, which is a member of BRICS, is condemned for blocking the Hormuz, but without actually mentioning the name of Iran. So India is trying its best to commit itself to convince Israelis and UAE that we are with you, but also trying to convey to Iran that we are not against you. That does not really work, especially when the two of them are at war with each other. So I think what the Iranians, there are 2 or 3 theories about why this was attacked. One is this accident, which I don't subscribe to. So the Iranians are trying to send a message to India saying, okay, you want to stand with UAE, you want to have a strategic partnership with UAE, then great, we will see you as a partner of UAE. As simple as that. And right now, all partners of UAE are Iran's enemies. So is that the message Iran is trying to send to India, that you can't have it both ways? The second possibility is that Iran itself is divided. So there's a division within Iran. And so the hardliners in IRGC are not happy with all the soft lines that Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, is peddling. So they do not like the idea that Syed Abbas Araghchi is continuing to pretend as if relations between Iran and India remain the same when India openly says it stands with with Israel and stands with UAE. And India's voting patterns in the United Nations, for example, are not friendly to Iran but very friendly to Israel. India is acting exactly like the US, as if it's a proxy of Israel, especially undermining all international efforts to condemn Israel. India has become the biggest protector of Israel in the international forums. So you can't be both. So it is possible that IRGC is also trying to sabotage their own foreign minister and trying to undermine his moderation by taking this particular position and forcing India to say something tough to Syed Abbas Araghchi so that he would get in line. So that is a huge issue, really. So it is quite possible that Iran is sending a message to India, or IRGC is sending a message to India and to its own moderates that, look, we are going to treat anybody who stands with Israel as our enemy. And so you can't just continue to have, like, Iran has no friendly relations with the US, which is a bigger sponsor of Israel. India just talks, but the U.S. actually gives weapons and gives billions of dollars, provides technology, etc., to protect Israel. And there's no comparison in what India does for Israel and what U.S. does. But Iran is not willing to have good relations with anybody who has good relations with Israel. So this is an interesting development. I think what is happening is there is a South Asianization of the Middle East happening. And so these two regions are strategically beginning to overlap. So the conflicts in the Gulf are going to exacerbate the conflicts in South Asia. So the UAE-Saudi conflict, Iran-Israel conflict is going to exacerbate India-Pakistan relations, because Pakistan is so closely aligned now with Saudi Arabia. And you can see that Iran is doing favors to Pakistan by allowing natural gas tankers from Qatar to go to Pakistan, whereas it is sinking India's ships, allowing China's ships to go. So you can see there seems to be some kind of a geopolitical preference for China, Pakistan, and not for India from Iranians. And the reverse is also true, that Pakistan is now involved in the security of Saudi Arabia as well as Qatar, and is now the main mediator for negotiations between the Gulf, which is Iran, and the West. And India is now taking sides with Israel on one hand, and is also taking sides with its defense partnership with UAE. So we are seeing some significant developments, and I think that with all of this in context, there is also China. China is now playing a bigger role in dealing with mediation. In fact, you could say that in the past 1 week, Pakistan's role has diminished as a mediator, and China's role has increased. In fact, today the discussions were about Iran. While the White House has announced that Iran is not going to, Iran is open, Iran and the US agree that, US and China agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and US and China agree that the Strait of Hormuz should be open and no tolls should be charged. We will wait to see what the Chinese readout is. When it comes to Israel and Israel's security, the Americans have zero morality, American politicians. They will say anything, they will lie, they will do anything just to advance Israeli interests. So I'm not going to, unfortunately, take my own country's word for this. I'll have to wait and see what the Chinese have to say, and then read both the readouts and read between the lines, and then I will give you my assessment of what really they may have agreed upon. So this is a major development. I think that Iran is sending a message to India that it cannot continue to be a multi-aligned while standing so firmly with one inactions. India has not taken any action that supports Iran in the war or in the international forum. It's constantly aligned with UAE and Israel, even though it's giving lip service to Iran. So I think that's one message that Iran is sending. The other message that Iran is sending is that for countries which are friendly with us, we will allow them to use the Strait of Hormuz, like China and Pakistan, and anybody else who is not friendly with us, we are going to take hostile action against them. So these are the two really critical messages that are coming out of Iran today. And I think the meeting with Trump and Xi Jinping is very critical. If after this, I think there will be a small period of time in which Donald Trump is going to wait and see if China is going to pressure Iran to move forward. Iran is being quite stubborn and absolutely making no movement forward. Neither is the US. In fact, both keep making proposals and counter proposals, which are just a rephrasing of the original statements, except for this slight modification from the Iranian side, which says that they are willing to suspend for a short period of time, 3 years, 5 years, 12 years, enrichment of uranium. They do not want to give up enrichment of uranium, but they will suspend it for a while. They are also willing to maybe allow a third-party country to have a possession of the already enriched uranium, but they want guarantees that if the US or Israel break their promise, which they are most likely going to do it, because Trump backed out of JCPOA. So then they want those things back, which I think they're not going to get it. Even if they give it to China, China would not return enriched uranium to Iran for sure, because then the US will accuse them of giving Iran the bomb. But the third thing is that there are bigger issues that China and Russia and US want to settle: trade issues, blocking of semiconductors to China, pressure on China, US support for Taiwan. All of this is on the table. Iran is not China's number one priority. Taiwan is, and trade is. And for example, do you know that while India and UAE are big trading partners, UAE's biggest trading partner is China. And so China has a lot of financial interest in its stability in the Gulf and keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. So while China-US trade is is around $30 to $40 billion. The trade with UAE is actually more. So from that point of view, I think the Iranians should not assume that Iran is China's number one priority. It is not. So as long as Iran is useful to China, China will support it. But if China finds alternative ways of getting, like for example, if Donald Trump says, look, how much oil are you getting from Iran, at what price? I will give you that much oil at the same price. If he makes a promise like that, then I think China will simply drop Iran. It's too much of a headache for it. So I think that Iranians are also kind of nervous as to what is happening in Beijing. So we will see what happens with Beijing and what comes out of it. And then I will come back as usual and give you an update on that. But stay tuned. Tonight I will be coming and doing 2 shows tonight, which will be about 10 hours from now. I will not only give you an update on what's happening in Beijing, but I will also give you an analysis of the Chinese economy. I have looked at it recently and I've identified 5 cracks in the Chinese economy. There are 5 fundamental flaws in the Chinese economy, and I will be identifying what those 5 potential flaws are, and we can then go forward and talk about it. So that would be an interesting thing to do. So please stay tuned, and I will then talk to you in the evening about 10 hours from now. And as usual, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. There are a couple of comments here, and I will read them. Lots of members are here, so I have to respond to them. Jilani Sabun, wa alaikum salam to you. I don't know. When Israel and the US attack schools, no one calls them terrorists. When the Iranians attack ships, everyone calls them terrorism. The word is beginning to lose its meaning. SMS says, Khansa, what is news from China? Yes, please come back in a few hours. I'll give you an update on what's happening, and I will give you an update on the Chinese economy too. Sir, you have done already one program. I was waiting for USA and China talks, developments in this regard. I will be doing that in a few hours. I'm waiting for them to finish. I'm waiting for the Chinese readout. I just don't want to do it based on just what White House is saying. Harpreet, hello to you. Ajay Sharma, what is Ajay Sharma? Okay, you're responding to somebody else. Well, as I said, that the White House has a release, and according to the White House statement, what they are saying is that let me show it to you. So the White House has issued this particular statement, and you can take a look at it. Okay, 1 second. Let me remove one. I have to remove this from the studio, and then I can share this with you. So this is what the White House has issued on social media just now. It says that the two sides agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open to support the free flow of energy. President Xi also made clear China's opposition to the militarization of the strait, which means, of course, even the US has militarized an effort to charge a toll for its use, and that is clearly against Iran, and the expressed interest in purchasing more American oil to reduce China's dependence on the strait in the future. This is something that Iran should worry about. I'm not very sure that Donald Trump will give any discount to Iran. He can't, or it's up to the companies. But if China decides, the only reason why China is buying Iranian oil is getting heavy discounts on it per barrel, up to $10 per barrel. So why will it pay a higher price? And I think the cost of transportation could also increase. So why will they pay extra to get it from the US? And there are some issues about that there are already many refineries which have been built just to handle Iranian crude, and all of them would go out of business. So I don't think China is going to take up on this offer, but this is something that Iran should worry about. And then they highlight the last point that both countries agreed that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. I think Iran also agrees that it doesn't want to have a nuclear weapon. See, only the Americans have used the nuclear weapons. There are many other nuclear power countries who have not used it at all. So this assumption that as soon as Iran gets one or two bombs, it's going to go ahead and use them is a completely fallacious mistake. Iran has chemical weapons. Iran has not used any chemical weapons. So this idea that Iran will immediately use weapons of mass destruction is just a propaganda used to fool stupid people who are willing to believe that and get their support and justify whatever the US is trying to do in the region. But anyway, thank you very much, all of you. Like I said, please come back in 10 hours. I will be doing a couple of shows. One, I will do an analysis summarizing what's happened in Beijing. And then I will also do a show focused on the Chinese economy. There are a few cracks there, and what its impact has been on China's growth story and China's rise as a competitor to the US. So anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icons, and share this video with your network. Thank you very much for watching.